Hey everybody, I'm just checking in right now. Haven't done this with you guys for a while. Celebrating Young, Bold, and Regal. 9 years of doing this, and it feels pretty incredible doing this. Being able to talk to so many amazing people over the years. And today we're gonna talk to Taylor Ferber, who is a celebrity guru. She's a podcaster. She has Cancel Me Baby podcast. She's been featured in Playboy. She's been featured in so many things. She's tapping in right now. So yeah. Yeah, she's about to tap in with us right now.
Hi, look at us in our merch.
Yeah, exactly. Make sure to get the CMB Cancel Me Baby podcast merch. Show them again real quick.
Yes, this is not meant to be a porno, but here it is. This is actually new. The link, actually, this is actually a little exclusive piece. This
Oh yeah.
canceled tab isn't on the site yet, but for people who want it, you ladies, theys, thems, whoever, whatever floats your boat. Let me know. My merch link though is in my site. So
Yeah. Let me introduce
or my bio. Sorry.
Let me introduce you formally to my audience as well. This is Taylor Ferber. She's been featured in USA Today. She's written for Bustle. She's written for every publication under the sun. And she's been featured in and written for Playboy. And she ventured off and started her own podcast called the Cancel Me Baby podcast. No, she's not asking to be canceled every day. She's asking She's asking you to take a greater look at what it means to be a part of the pop culture and what pop culture moments look like outside of the group think. Am I correct?
Spot on. Exactly. Yeah.
Tell a little bit more about Counsel Me Baby podcast and the empire you're building.
So I started off basically never did anything like everybody else. I was a red carpet, like you mentioned, and I worked for huge sites. I worked for Vulture, Us Weekly, Hollywood Reporter, but I was never
Mm-hmm.
satisfied with the questions that we were supposed to ask. So what did I do? I was like, I'm gonna take matters in my own hands, literally. And I launched my own site. It was called Talk to Me. And I got
Mm-hmm.
celebrities to really kind of let their hair down, and I would go out with a selfie stick. So it was completely unlike what they were used to, because they were used to the really kind of awkward, controlling, like E with the cube mic, that whole thing.
Yeah.
And I just did it my way. And it was like I had the biggest stars in the world acting how they never normally would. This was like pre-social media. So what happens with the pandemic? Shuts down the industry. Red carpets are in the abyss. So I pull myself up by the bootstraps. I have started my podcast, Cancel Me Baby, because
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to still continue these conversations. So I kind of went rogue and just did it, having the conversations I felt like people were having behind the scenes, kind of like what I brought to the red carpet, but use my show as a platform. I feel like we're just in such a time where everybody's so afraid to say the wrong thing or step out of line. So the whole show is like, you know what? Take it or leave it, pull no punches, and here's what I have to say. And it's in my own style. It's the same thing as my carpet stuff, super irreverent but thoughtful and politically incorrect, and just going for it. So
Yeah. Give people an idea of what it's like for a typical red carpet reporter. You go on the red carpet, a star comes, their PR will tell you a little bit about them beforehand, give you what is it called, like talking points, right?
yes.
And sometimes that's insulting because it's like, wow, I did my research, but thank you. And sometimes it's pretty helpful, right? You may not know a lot about them. But then you ask the questions you want to ask, and suddenly it's like you're revealing CIA secrets. They're like, no, we can't talk about that. There's like the PR person texting in the background or in the background itself, and you're looking at the playback and you're like, this could have been a beautiful interview, except for the PR messed it up.
I know. And even as of late, I try to put myself in their shoes. I actually told this story on my show yesterday. I had a guest, Allie Levine, and similar to me, she was a celebrity stylist. So we were
Mm-hmm.
both really immersed, and now she's in Nashville, I'm in Florida, so now we can kind of like look at it from the outside, but being on the
Yeah.
inside. Oh, that's the story on there of when I interviewed Nicole Scherzinger
Mm-hmm.
and for Moana, and she's Hawaiian, so she's talking about it from her point of view, right? So this is a Disney movie. We're in literally the Disney headquarters in Burbank, and she starts telling me we're almost like sitting on the floor, like braiding each other's hair, right? Like Girl Scouts, like all. And she's super cool. And she starts telling me about how Lilo and Stitch, which was supposed to represent Hawaiian culture, got it wrong in so many ways, how she didn't appreciate it. And literally the PR might as well have took me out, like, by my and was like, you know, don't run that. And so that's an example of like how controlling they are. But, you know, I try to see it from their side, which is like, do you want your talent talking shit, you know, on your own, a movie made by your own company, you know? But, you know, as a journalist, yeah, it's incredibly frustrating because it's like, just let us get it to the truth. And when I would do my selfie stick interviews, the most annoying would be when the celebrities were so into it. They'd be like, oh my, like Will Arnett, he pulls out his phone and I'm like on his personal cell phone.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, I've never done anything like this, you know, but their PR pulls them away because it's so
Yeah.
like that really would annoy me. It's like they're grown adults, you know?
And it feels like, and I've been doing more of celebrity, going back to celebrity red carpets. You're continuing to do your own thing, but doing amazing interviews, right? And a lot of people have asked me, how has it changed? I'm saying, well, a lot of these celebrities are just not doing interviews at all. It will be an event for them. They'll come by, you can get some cool B-roll, but no interviews whatsoever. And that's almost unheard of beforehand. And I said the access is actually might be a little bit worse now because some of these celebrities are guarded and they don't want to step on toes or they don't want to say anything wrong. And a lot of it is like very, very uptight. So my friend Drewski 289 says, "Is that LeVar Burton?" He's referring to me. It's a running joke that I look like LeVar Burton, right? So to him, I say, "Keep my wife's name out your." Right? It's about, you know, Hollywood is also about taking a joke and not taking yourself too seriously because it's about it's all fantasy land. You're doing things that you love. You're pretending to be people. You're very serious in your acting, but as a celebrity, you have to have a certain, you know, a certain levity about you, right? We didn't see that levity on display with Will Smith, so I wanted your take on the real-time incident, what you thought of it right after, and then just the fallout of everything, and of course the 10-year ban.
I mean, as soon as I saw it, I just was shocked, like everybody, of course. But I really, I just couldn't believe it. And I immediately just was like, what a double standard. Because, you know, I did a whole episode on this, and I just talked about how we're in a time where people are brought down and, you know, have careers ruined over what are, in my opinion, small things, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Singing a song, misstepping, saying the wrong word, calling someone the wrong name, whatever. And it's like, you're going to song.
Singing Imagine, right?
Yelling obscenities in the Dolby Theater, which I've been in many times. Literally, his voice is echoing the F word through the Dolby Theater on the Hollywood Boulevard.
I think I heard it all the way from Pasadena.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and he gets a pass. I mean, but now he's not getting a pass, but it's interesting because I feel like I think that there's a double standard. I think had he, you know, he was walking that night, like he's the man talking shit on social media, you know, dancing might as well have been doing the Macarena at the Vanity
Fair.
Yeah.
He's getting jiggy with it.
And I think that if he didn't get so much shit and if there wasn't so much blowback, honestly, I don't know that the Academy would have done anything.
Yeah, and you and I texted each other and I said, you know, off the record, but on the record, this is the best thing that happened to the Academy because it was an unscripted moment that nobody anticipated it. It was very unexpected. It was very unfortunate, but it didn't stop the ceremony entirely, right?
Yeah.
And my opinion on it is that, like I told you this, I feel like Will Smith has like toxic positivity. Have you ever met somebody and it's like they're happy all the time, even with the worst situation? and you're like, is this person a robot? Like they don't get frustrated, they don't get mad. And I think in that moment, all those feelings of him being shitted on the past 2 years, or even you could say 20 years with other criticisms, he just encapsulated that, and he just did something with it, right? And that was very unfortunate. And I was telling somebody, no matter how you feel about it, no matter if you feel that Chris Rock deserved it, didn't deserve it, what was wrong, he was out of line, that moment was totally sullied because the winners that night, Will Smith's speech, everything took the focus off of that, right? And I tell people all the time, I knew about this movie like 2.5 years ago. For an entire year, I was telling people he's gonna win Best Actor. His speech is gonna be really amazing. And I joke with people. I was like, I wish he would have received that Oscar before the slap, because the speech would have been so different. But the speech felt very robotic and authentic. It felt like a PR piece. Richard Williams, Venus Williams' dad, via his son, came out with a statement, says, I don't condone that, right? But also, I think on the flip side of it, right, to play devil's advocate for people who, do believe in it, right? I do believe that Chris Rock deserved that. I feel that Black pain is very profitable, right? So for Chris Rock to go up there and to shit on Will Smith's moment, the Will Smith's night, it wasn't his night, but everybody was probably smiling extra hard because they knew he would win. It's like, that sucks. And I've been in that position before where people have shitted on something on a very special occasion. Granted, I didn't go up there and smack them, but at the same time, it's like, I don't know, there was something in the atmosphere that felt very like, why are people picking on Will Smith? And it felt very weird that way. And now we're seeing, sadly, the true colors of some of our favorite celebrities.
Yeah.
Under pressure, right? Nick Lachey attacking the photographer,
right.
Ezra Hawaii.
But it's interesting, though, Evan, that you see it as like, why are they going after Will Smith? And that's where, like, I've talked about, and I feel like comedy is like the great equalizer. I mean, they go after Leo with his,
Yeah.
It's going to be so inappropriate. However, your old girlfriends, that whole thing.
Yeah.
I think, like, that's, like, the nature of it. I mean, Ricky Gervais, like, the goat of it, shitting on one of them, being like, you're all out of touch.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was just such a display of, like, that pure Hollywood entitlement.
Elite.
And I had Bobby Jones, he has his site, The Buzz. He is also so well connected and experienced in Hollywood. He was on another red carpet that night, though. And we had a really interesting dialogue on my show, because something else that I've talked about on my show and with him was the race component. Because I thought, as soon as I saw it, I thought, because it's such a sensitive time, nobody wants to get, like, in my head, I was like, if someone calls this out, that it's bad, they're going to be called a racist, because everything's so, and I was surprised that so many people did condemn it. I was like, I think that they're going to be afraid. And a point that Bobby and I got to is that it was one of those things where Will Smith is such a larger than life celebrity that
that wasn't about race in that moment. It was about
it's like, yeah, and even like J-Lo, like, these people are just so huge that they're bigger than, a color or this or that. So that was really interesting to explore too,
And I tell people all the time, a lot of these pop culture moments, sometimes they're in a vacuum. The people in the room, the people on Twitter, they immediately react to it. But afterwards, after a week, we're on to our next viral or moment. Perfect timing. J-Lo just got engaged. Very few people are talking, like, that's going to fill up the news cycle and going to go down. But I always say that the pop culture moment is a reflection on how we react and how certain people react. So Kareem Abdul-Jabbar coming out and saying this makes, the Black community look bad. And I'm like, last time I checked, Alec Baldwin, Donald Trump didn't make all white dudes look bad. We still got Joe Biden.
Really good.
Still got, right?
That's a really good point, because I talked about with Bobby, uh, who is it, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, his piece, and he condemns it as a Black man, saying this just perpetuates a stereotype. Yeah, do better. It makes us look bad. And also, I had heard, I think it was Bill Maher or someone who was actually at the Vanity Fair Oscar party, and one of Chris Rock's friends had said to him something like, you know, he kept his composure because he had the whole Black community on his shoulders.
Yeah. And, and now you have the other side of it where you have that clip come out of Louis C.K., Jerry Seinfeld, and Louis C.K. and Chris Rock joking about the N-word, and then Seinfeld saying, I don't seek the comedy in that, nor do I find it, right? So I think it's both sides. When a pop culture moment comes out, people are like literally have their finger on their keyboard waiting for every moment to solidify the evidence against that. And that goes back to your podcast where you says, let's release ourselves from all of that. Let's be above that, right? And then let's talk about what it means at large. And it was like and another person, David Oyelowo, the actor, says he fears what the ramifications of this will be for future award ceremonies, specifically Oscars, about inclusivity and diversity, which to me is ridiculous because it is still very low. Halle Berry is still the only actress of color who is Black to win an Academy Award for Best Lead Actress, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like, and a lot of prominent Latino organizations have come out and says, we're going to boycott the Oscars because they're not including us anymore. So I joke with you, like, are the Oscars going to be even around in 10 years? Right now, it's barely relevant, but will it be around for the next 10 years?
So on the flip side of that, though, I think that you also, it's like, it's so extremes, right? So on one end of it, you have, it's like, well, why aren't we included? Then we had Oscars So White. I spoke on All Places of Fox News, about when they came out with the, you know, you have to have
the quota,
So that's where I think it becomes problematic because it's like set rules, and then I think people have a filter in their mind and they go, okay, is this filling a quota? Is this filling a checklist? Or is this really about art and rewarding who made the best art, who moved us, who inspired us, who, you know, whatever. And I think that's where it becomes tricky because it's like, well, how do you discern the two? How do you discern really trying to be inclusive, but also trying to like save face in a way? And, you know, it's interesting because, for example, I had Clark Backo, a Black woman actress who was in I Want You Back, which is a fantastic Amazon, the new rom-com.
Really good rom-com, by the way.
What?
It's a really good rom-com. They need to send us
made me laugh.
Popcorn, like movie tickets, because I've streamed it, you streamed it. We deserve love.
Yeah. And she, you know, her insight was really interesting. I said, talk to me about this as someone who's in it and is in these castings and is on set. And, you know, she totally agreed. She's like, my friends and I, you know, we talk about it and it's absurd. Like she even told me, she's like, you know, one time I was told I was cast because I was the right type of Black. Just like beyond cringe. And I think it makes everybody on all ends of it second guess now. It's like, well, I'm really getting it off merit, and am I getting it because of this, you know?
Yeah. And you and as a person of color, a Black man, is speaking to other counterparts, such as like Nick Hamilton of Nightcast Media. Black-owned media matters. You know, we want to be a part of the narrative of the red carpet of asking these questions. We don't want to be the narrative, the complete, utter, and most the narrative just because we're Black. We want to have spaces, in his case, and even in my case, spaces in baseball, country music awards, awards, the Academy Awards, and also the Image Awards, the Alma Awards, Achievement for Latinos in Arts and Music. So we want to be in all spaces, and we're at the door now, and we're saying, hey, we're qualified. Why aren't you letting us in, right?
Okay, so what do you think about this? So what you're saying is exactly how I feel about being a woman and being at these events in Hollywood. I mean, I've talked about it many times on my show, but I get it. Like, you know, the Woman in Hollywood awards with THR, whatever. Like, they would do all of these, you know, and my whole point would be, I mean, they're a dime a dozen, and my whole point would be the same thing as you. Like, let's get the men in on the fold. Like, let's be immersive.
Let's get everybody in. Yeah.
Here. So I was reading a story the other day. I believe it, oh, you know where it was? So Andrew Sullivan, he is
Mm-hmm.
a famous columnist. He left the he left New York Magazine. Now he has a platform, The Dish.
He's appeared on Bill Maher a lot too.
Yes, he's always on Bill Maher. And he talks about, again, he's outside the groupthink as well. So I was reading a piece the other day about how it's a really great piece, but basically how he was invited on to Jon Stewart.
Yeah.
Jon just basically like labeled him a racist.
Wow.
But in the story, he talks about how there's this event, and I forget what it's called, but basically in it, it was like they charge people, you know, like $2,000 a plate to be told, you know, how racist they are. But the woman who I thought this was really interesting and sad, and it goes into what we're talking about being, you know, all in together.
Mm-hmm.
She said, this is the woman who throws the event, okay? She literally said, we don't bother engaging with the white men who come to this event. We don't talk to them, we don't acknowledge them. And I'm like, are you joking? So why have the, like, you know, and it's that idea. It's like, well, do we want to be in our separate things, or do we want to be, you know, in our separate camps, or do we want in a blend all together? So
exactly. And that's where we talked about how the elitism, and when it comes to Hollywood, has heightened so much, where one group wants to swap out for the next one and tag WWE wrestling, says we're the elite group now, right? And that's not, you and I discuss this all the time, that's not equality, that's not parity, that's swapping one elite group for the next, and that's just like another ride on the carousel. And we both agreed that's not what we want when it comes to opportunity to interview celebrities. We want first the opportunity to speak to them and the freedom to speak with them with what they actually feel. We're not going to tank their movie or going to put them at risk, but we want them to be real human beings, and we want real responses.
Evan, with that said, what do you think about, you know, I brought up the, you know, women in Hollywood. Honestly, they all blend together that I don't even remember their names. There's like BlogHer has events, you know, whatever, all these things.
Yeah.
I was red carpet reporting. I'd covered, you know, events that Essence did. I think I covered the NAACP. So what do you think about, you know, having awards that are solely, you know, it's the equivalent of like, you know, an event for women, you know?
I feel like those are incredibly important, and I do understand from a different perspective of, let's say if somebody wants to go there and they want to represent, and not that they're denied, but they're not really focused on. I feel like those award shows for the very you know, the very elite groups who've been doing it for a very long time, I'm not saying they had their time. I'm just saying that when I go to the Essence Black Women Hollywood Awards, somebody says this is more important than the Oscars, right? And Oscars are always seen as the tent pole, as the pinnacle. And I tell people all the time, I got to ask a question at the Oscars. That's the height of my journalism career. And then I reeled it back, and I'm like, I've been to the Image Awards, I've been to the Alma Awards, I've been to all these women empowerment events, but I still hold this institution that's only let me in about 2 or 3 times out of the 10 years I've applied, and I get very, very, very little access. Why am I holding this groups at such an esteem when they don't hold me as an esteem, i.e., that's why their ratings are tanking. People don't see themselves in the Oscars at all, right? And also, you expected people from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. on a poppin' Sunday night to sit down and watch? No, 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 no. Those ratings are going to tank. They need to simulcast. They need to stop BSing, and they need to hire you as a pre-Oscars commentator, right?
Definitely would be more interesting than their
exactly. Right? And once again, you're not trying to burn down the ABC station of your comments, right? You're trying to make it very fun and colorful and interesting and impromptu.
But that's what goes into the very beginning, full circle moment, about how controlling they are. This is something Allie and I talked about in the episode I dropped yesterday, how controlling they are. And back to even my selfie stick stuff, they really, I think, just saw it as a threat because it was such an
Yeah.
anomaly. Like, even though you're right, I wasn't out here being offensive. I was
Mm,
just the root and to the truth and to the spontaneity of things. And it's like, it was so foreign to them. They have to stay in their own, even
yeah,
still. And it's, what are you guys still holding on to? Like, to your,
exactly.
no one, no one cares. And it's so funny. I saw the
Classic PR in the background. This means like wrap it up, and you're like, and
exactly.
you're in, you're like, what?
Yeah, I think the funniest caption about Will Smith getting banned from the Oscars for 10 years, and it was like, punishment. This seems like a reward.
Yeah, because I've been telling people the last time he went in person as a nominee was 2006, right, for Pursuit of Happiness as a nominee. So I'm like, he's on pace to like make a good movie in 12 years and get nominated, right?
And another 12.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. He
And the whole Will and Jada thing too. First of all, it's crazy to me that it's still like they're like, thank God for Jen and Ben right now, right? Because I can't even believe it's lasted this long. But the thing to me now that's getting ridiculous, like, we did our analysis of it, and I did 2 episodes on it, but now I'm seeing things circulate that's talking about their open marriage and this and that, and the guys she's dated, and how one of the guys is coming out with a book. And now I'm like, all right, now it's like getting a little absurd. Like,
yeah, now it's getting a little weird,
you need to
right?
pick apart. It's a little like, it was what it was. It's like, come on, let's focus on Chris Rock's going to be down here actually in Fort Lauderdale, and doing a show next week. That's nice. It's $300 a pop though, so
yeah. and then I think he's gonna do he might do Netflix as a joke. I'm not it's a huge festival in LA. I'm not sure if he is or isn't, right? He might just come out like Michael Jackson and take off his shades and the whole crowd goes crazy. We don't know.
Right.
So speaking about Jen and Ben and Will and Jada, right? Very familiar. They've been in the public eye since we even knew what celebrities were, right? But I was telling you, the A-listers aren't A-listing anymore, right? J-Lo's last movie, right? Marry Me.
Started.
This is how they did it. J-Lo's last movie, Marry Me, came out, what is it called? Super Bowl weekend / Valentine's Day weekend, right? Let me pause real quick. Shout out to Nick Hamilton, LA, Nightcast Media. He talked about Black-owned media matters. We're going to talk about that right after this, right?
Talking about you, Nick.
Yeah, we're talking about you, Nick. Shout out to Nightcast Media.
Your ears must have been ringing.
So, on Valentine's Day, Marry Me was the #1 movie in the country on the day, but the weekend, it didn't do #1 on the weekend. It didn't do #1 at the box office for the 3 days. So that's how they twisted it. That's how they said, oh, country on Valentine's Day, right? And then it went to streaming and it did okay there, right? But we're used to her doing her 20 million, maybe 30 million #1 at the box office, right? Mm-hmm. And let's go to Ben Affleck, right? His last movie is really, really good. It's called The Way Back. It's a coming-of-age story. He isn't the main character in it, but it's Ben Affleck, right? That also wasn't streaming. And I was telling you, a lot of these A-listers are going to streaming because their numbers aren't going to be scrutinized as much. They get the bag, they get money, but at the same time, we don't have to not call them A-listers anymore, right? To give you some context, one of the few words that Shakespeare made up and didn't make into the culture is called unfamous. He says that there is a word called unfamous that he created that meant that people will become not famous again. And that didn't become popular because once you're famous, right? But there is something called a fading star, correct? So where are my Halle Berrys? When I saw Halle Berry in the Flintstones, I said I would forever follow her career. And she's been A-list ever since, right? But it was a combination of the fact that I had a childhood crush on her, that she did amazing roles like Swordfish. What's it called? Obviously, her for her award-winning Oscar for the film she won for, right? And a combination of other things, her being in the public eye, the moment where Adrian Brody kissed her, and the moment where, you know, she kissed Jamie Foxx at the Spike TV Awards, right? And to me, that's my definition of A-list. So I'm asking you, what do you think is the redefinition of what it means to be
Oh
an
my God.
A-list?
So I actually think that we need to get it back to its roots. And what I mean by that is, and this is again coming from the girl who would go out with a selfie stick, getting celebrities to tell me like their deepest, darkest secrets and like really, you know, be relatable to us.
Yes.
But I think we need to get it back to like the Marilyn Monroes, like when a little separation, you know, when they were in a sort of other alternate larger than universe. It's like the curtain's been peeled back.
Getting back to the Dorothy Dandridges, right?
There you go. The curtain has been peeled back, and we have been through so much over the last 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
People seem to not be able to grasp getting a clue because they have the nerve to not only continue to show how out of touch they are, to not stay in their lane, to weigh in on real life, you know, policies that frankly don't really concern them or don't affect them. And people are so over it. People don't care what they have to say. My mom, the biggest pop culture obsessed E-News, like she's the whole thing. You know what she said to me the other day? When the Oscars, right? She's like, the Oscars are, who even cares about these people? And then goes about her night, literally. But that's how most people are feeling. So I feel like they need to really get back to like the mystery and that sort of refined, larger than life, you know, attainable American dream status. It's like they're trying way too hard. And it's just, I don't know what they're going to do because people have joked, yes, we've had a pandemic. We haven't been able to go to the movies, but with all these award shows, people are like, I haven't even heard of these movies.
Exactly. Somebody the other day says like, I haven't even seen any of these movies. Why? And why should I? Right.
I'm curious for you, Evan, because you're still out there in the mix. What the vibe is actually on these carpets with these celebrities, because you were earlier talking about how they don't want to talk, you know, it's gotten worse, but it's funny because I have friends who are still out doing it and they're like, oh my God, they have been pent up for 2 years. Their egos need to be blabbering on about themselves for a century. They will talk to anyone who will listen for telling me their whole life story. So I'm curious from you what the vibe is.
So it's twofold. What I meant by earlier is the fact that a lot of these celebrities who didn't have a cause beforehand, they're searching for a cause and they're waiting time. So they're like, let me throw this awesome event for no reason, right? I went to an event. Somebody said, why is
no reason?
And I'm like, I have no idea. They just did like a collaboration deal and they wanted to throw it, right? They've gotten better at saying, hey, we want to throw an event with a slight cause in it, right? Like I kind of have like, you get a water with like a lemon in it. They're like, we want to throw a beautiful event, but like, let's throw like a cause in it so that we don't look like it's all about us.
Right?
So, so obviously one of my favorite celebs is Saweetie, right? And Saweetie is a hot topic on Twitter because a lot of people are saying she's an industry plant, that, you know, she's not that talented. Why is she getting Best New Artist, right? So there's a tug and pull of like, why is she being famous for what she is, right? And then there's all these. What I think
talented
is A-list talent, but she's not A-lister yet. A-lister to me is a very coveted spot, and it's household names, and it goes by one name or it goes by one song, right? What is Kanye known for? Kanye is known for Gold Digger, right? And then more recently, Kanye is known for being with Kim Kardashian. There's some people in the world who only know those two things, even though he's been in the public eye for, you could say, 25 years. I remember listening to Jay-Z and Jay-Z shouting him out, right? So it's a new thing where it's the fact, see, Nick said she's B-listed, right? And I would agree with him. You know why? Because she hasn't come out with a body of work that people can get somewhat familiar with, right? That's why she's not putting out an album yet. He keeps saying it, B-lister, right?
He's like, just so
right?
you know. Like, I'm about to go to C.
And the reason why I say she has A-list talent, because she reminds me a bit, work with me with this analogy, when Ryan Reynolds was really popping off, right? Ryan Reynolds, right? He did Deadpool eventually, right? But before that, what was he known for? Not that much. He was known for
small rom-coms, The Proposal,
exactly
Friends. He was like
all
the
rom
yeah.
we can allude to, but
Yeah.
nothing we could tap down for. But once he did Deadpool, right? That's where he really took off, right? So Nick is saying about Saweetie, music ain't strong. She's better with appearances, right? And this goes back to what you said. It's all about appearances, right? In your latest episode, it's very image centric, right? When I first heard Biggie, I didn't know what he looked like, but he sounded like a big dude because of his breath control. And when I saw him TV, I'm like, this guy is so cool, right? When I saw Missy Elliott, when I saw Busta Rhymes, when I saw Chris Farley, right? Like, would Chris Farley make it now, right? Who's the closest counterpart to him? Maybe Seth Rogen and Jonah Hill, but they've lost weight, right?
God, yeah.
They're not nearly as funny as Chris Farley.
Can't stand Seth Rogen. Back to example A about staying in your lane and shutting. Yeah.
Right? Yeah, exactly. And Seth Rogen is, more power to Seth Rogen doing pottery, but I don't give a shit about that. Give me some dope movies. Give me some dope content, which he has with Pam and Tommy, right? So,
right, yeah.
To Nick's point and to your point, a lot of these people who think they're A-list, right? They are very image centric, very appearance centric, but their music, their movies, or the content they're putting out is not nearly as strong as what their appearances are.
I'm glad you brought this up because something I'll talk about with my friends, in Hollywood, whether they were actors, screenwriters, PAs, this, that, the other thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to take a breath for this one. What does somebody, I'm sorry, like a TikTok star like Addison Rae have the audacity and the nerve and the balls to be among the likes of the Merrills and company at huge award shows?
Oh, man.
But really, I mean, it goes into your point of what makes a celebrity, what makes an A-lister. And this is something that my listeners know I grapple with on my show constantly because it is kind of the new celebrity. But when you talk about becoming a household name, I'm sorry, maybe I'm like a Bill Maher dinosaur old school mindset, but I can't seem to get like a TikTok star like that and household name. Name. I can't make them synonymous in my head. It like won't compute.
And that also bring it back to a little bit to the Will and Jada situation. When it was announced that Will was on social media, I was like, I don't know how I feel about that because I'm used to just seeing him in the movie theater, seeing him walk the red carpet. Yeah. That's about it, right? At first, I was like, I don't know. And then I tune in, and he's doing little trends, and he's acting the part of the Will Smith / Fresh Prince / telling us old stories, and it's like, this is dope, right? But then when it came to Red Table Talk, and then when it came to basically building an empire, revealing their privacy, it was like, I didn't necessarily sign up for an article every day about them. No. I'll buy a ticket to your movie, but I'm not going to subscribe to the hashtag every day, right? And I think access has become so more voracious. And somebody asked me that 9 years ago when I started, what's the difference? I said, the access is too much. Like, there's no reason I should be able to contact a celeb via DM and then contact them again and again and again. That's harassment, right?
It's
a boundary.
100%. And it's like anything in life. It's like dating. We all want what we can't have. And if it's too much, we're over it. I don't know about you. I like literally have a boner for this huge A-listers who don't have social media. I think like Scarlett Johansson doesn't have an Instagram, people because it's like, again, they know their role and it's like they know how to keep some of that mystery and that allure. And I think that's going to go such a far way. Now, on the other end of it, this is where, again, I feel like it's not so black and white because I'll often, shit on that and how accessible they are. But hey, you know, social media and Instagram, it's how I got the founder of Barstool Sports, Dave Portnoy, on my show, because he and I were contacted and DMing. So,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I can't knock it for that reason, because it also does give you that access. But then
Yeah.
on the other end of it, when does it be? It's too
That's
much.
how I found your content initially before I met you in person.
Yep. Yeah. So, you know, I don't know. And I don't know, you know, it's going to be interesting to see if and when they get the hint, because, you know, they hop on all these bandwagons, they do the hashtags, and even it's like, do I need to be like, some of them will like cry on it. It's just like, oh my God, save it for the movie. Like,
Yeah.
too
Some of them will
much.
cry in one of their darkest moments, and it feels very, like you said, cringe, and very,
Yeah.
because a lot of those moments are private. And, you know, sometimes they come out with a statement, but a lot of times they would, in real time, would show something that sometimes looks staged. You don't know if it's staged. And that's where the part with Will Smith, we didn't know if it was staged or not, because we're so used to things being staged,
Isn't
and
that
people don't
sad?
realize, like, on some levels, this has happened at certain award shows with Marlon Brando refusing the Oscar, right? Him having his Native American friends speak on behalf of Native Americans and Marlon Brando. Clint Eastwood and Roger Moore joking about that. That the whole thing happened without social media, and now people are just digging it up, right? So
Right.
yes, this was unprecedented, but there have been unscripted moments that made the shows what they were, right? Diana Ross and Lil' Kim
Oh, with
together.
the boob? Yeah, I
It
know. I know.
was like, obviously, I was a horny kid, but I was like, that was an awesome moment, right?
Yeah. You're like, where's the VHS to rewind that shit? No, it's true. I know. And it goes into the bigger question, though, of it's so sad because like social media and them showing us their smoothies and their Keurigs and crying, whatever. It's supposed to be about
Mm-hmm.
being authentic, but isn't it just the opposite? I mean, to your point, we see this happen and we're like, is this, you know, scripted? Was this
Mm-hmm.
planned? Because, you know, I talk about this on my show too, but it's like everybody, it's so sad again, because it's supposed to be about like being real and peeling it back, and everybody does the most to be so flashy, to, you know, it makes us second guess everything. We're like, what is
Yeah.
even pure anymore? It's sad.
And getting a little bit back to A-list, right? Like Nick was saying, like you were saying, is very appearance centric, right? But at the same time, it's a combination. Not only did I love seeing Halle Berry on screen, I appreciated her as an actor in her roles, right? And I think you can be A-lister in certain sections, certain, like it's similar to like Forbes. They have a certain section of, you know, the top rappers in Forbes, right? And they don't say that these rappers are the top in the world. They just put them in a certain section according to what category they're in, right? And if you talk to Kanye, like he'd be insulted that he'd been called a rapper, he wanted to be, you know, all these other quantifications, right? But I feel like your A-list moment was in Play.
Ah,
Oh, we're not going to show everything because we might need to get some Zuck butt get out of Instagram. All right. You've heard that story. We'll talk about that a little bit. But I say this is an A-list moment because it's the appearance of it and it's the prestige of being in Playboy. And not everybody gets to be in Playboy, right? And it's the content and the context you provided as well when it comes to your thoughts of being a journalist. So speak a little bit more about how you came to be in Playboy, writing for Playboy, and what you actually pitched initially.
well, thank you. It was always a dream of mine to be in
Mm-hmm.
Playboy. And some of it, it's like, I don't even, there's no rhyme or reason. I just was always obsessed with the idea of women just being so powerful and confident and
Mm-hmm.
sexy. Even when I was in high school, I was on the cheerleading team and we kind of all gave each other gag gifts. Do you remember Spencer's gifts?
Yeah.
Okay, so mine from the squad was this like Playboy plaque from Spencer. So you can
Oh
imagine
my.
the Karens. I'm like 17. They're like, "Well, this is great. What are we gonna do this?" So it
I
was
remember
always a dream of
that.
mine. What's that?
They say we know you're obsessed, so here you go. We did this in honor of you.
Exactly. And so I wish I never got rid of it in that tag sale. I wish I still held on to that little Playboy
Yep.
plaque, but it's really crazy how it all worked out. Actually, here's a little backstory that I never really have shared.
Oh,
But
okay.
so I was working at Us Weekly, and it's the craziest story actually of how I got connected to Playboy. See, so like you never know. And you know how it is in media. There are layoffs all the time. They consolidate. So Us Weekly had layoffs. I was laid off as a reporter, but they were like, don't worry, in a couple months' time, we'll bring you back. We're just doing budget, whatever. So they go like this. They go, in the meantime, do you want to be writing TV reviews of like reality shows Big Brother? I'm like, Big who? Like, I don't watch this shit. But I did it. So get a load of this. My editor, when I was doing those reviews after I'd gotten laid off, I ended up bumping into him at a party, I don't know, a year later. And I go, so what are you up to now? He's like, well, I'm an editor at Playboy now. It was the weirdest thing. So had I never been laid off from Us Weekly and doing those reviews, who knows? So that was my foot in the door at Playboy. I interviewed Rami Malek. It was right after he shot Bohemian Rhapsody before it came out. I had done think pieces for them. And I had this idea of, I want to prove that you can be both. I always had this idea in my head. I was like, I want to prove that you can be the intellectual, thought-provoking, smart, you know, whatever it is, entrepreneur, businesswoman, you know, interviewer, journalist, writer, but also show your body. Because we're in such a time where it's like you see someone, maybe she's like really hot, whatever, and it's like, you might think she's a bimbo or she's not the brightest bulb, or you know what I mean? And vice versa. It's like, you know, if someone is, you know, in politics or all buttoned up, it's like, oh, she can't do that and show her body. It takes away from her integrity as a woman. So I thought it was really
either or, like scenario people try to create.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, we don't even realize that. And I'm still guilty of it. But this whole experience really opened my eyes. You know, I'll see an Instagram model and I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll roll my eyes. But it's like, you don't even have a Harvard degree. So really kind of playing around with that. So I had pitched it to the head of digital at Playboy, didn't hear anything. And then funny enough in show business, how it works, like all of a sudden they, like months later, they circle back and they were like, we want to do this in a month. Let's go. So let's make it a group of journalists. Let's make it about free, you know, a free expression. You know, don't put me in a box. I'm going to express myself, you know, with my words, putting pen to paper, and also showing my body and be really empowered that way. And it just was such a crazy, like, full circle moment, because all of my work and my show, it's all about free speech and free expression. And it was in the 65th anniversary Playboy issue about free expression and free speech. That's awesome. It was so wild. And yeah, just like being on the shoot that day and looking around and seeing like the makeup person and the camera and you know, the coffee guy, and being like, I did this. Like, it just was so, and you're right. The fact that it wasn't just like, here's a sexy pictorial, like that's great, but that it really had such a profound message in a time of, again, like, and it was right on the heels of Me Too as well. So, that was why it was also provocative, because it was like, here we are owning our sexuality. We're not victims. And yeah, so I'm really proud of it for sure.
Mom and dad feel you being in the pages of Playboy, not only as, you know, a woman showing her expression with her body, but as a writer in between the sheets as well, expressing what it means to talk about free speech.
I mean, no, I mean, they were so proud. My mom is like, it's so funny, and I'll joke about this too. Like, she's like prude in real life, and I am a little bit of a prude. Like, I don't like sleep around or date, you know, so it's kind of funny. So in that regard, like, she was a little shy, whatever. But no, they were so, I mean, I still have the photos of when the print issue came out. It was right at Christmas time. So I was home for the holidays, and they got me flowers and had dinner. And there's photos of me, you know, crying. And even now, I mean, my 88-year-old grandpa, you know, it's literally on his coffee table. Like, what a conversation starter. My whole family, you know, my aunt, they literally, like, have it on their, you know, on their living, you know, dining room table. So.
Heck yeah. So tell people where people can find your merch for Cancel Me Baby.
Yes. So the merch, here's a little preview. It can be found in the link in my bio. Even if you Google, it's on Shopify. So if you Google Cancel Me Baby Shopify, It's in my Instagram bio. And again, it really represents, I think, the whole mindset of, you know what? I'm going to think how I think and feel how I feel and come out and say it and cancel me. I dare you, you know, have at it. So
Yeah.
it represents that, you know, aesthetic.
If you were in charge of Hollywood, the concept of Hollywood, not the two blocks that need to be kind of cleaned up like every day, basically, the concept of Hollywood, for in charge of it for a day, what things would you change? What are some slight things that you would do differently?
Oh, I would do massive things differently. First of all, no virtue signaling. Stop it with the apologies and stop trying to tiptoe and walk on eggshells and please everybody. I want to get back to like slapstick comedy, raunchy humor. Not like enough with the quotas, just like real art to inspire us and really entertain us. It's been a long 2 years. And like, again, like kind of get back to its roots of entertaining, period.
And to touch on a little bit about what Nick was saying earlier about Black-owned media matters, right? I think it's a conversation we not only have to have amongst ourselves as far as Black-owned media, but we need to have with our white journalists, especially with our white friends who have independent outlets who are also treated the same in some parts. Where you go to the red, probably seen it, where you've seen a lot of the people of color, or you've seen a lot of the indie outlets. They're on the tail end of the red carpet, and they're bunched together. What are your thoughts on that at large when it comes to how Black-owned media is treated, also how independent-owned media outlets like yourself are treated?
I think it's the same story, and it goes into what I was saying earlier about how they're so controlling. They're so, and it's sad because Hollywood is a place that is supposed to push the boundary, think outside the box, innovate, do things differently. Notice how on every red carpet, which again are becoming obsolete, it's the E and the entertainment night with the, you know, again, that really stiff, you know, topical, superficial question.
Yeah.
Because it's safe. Because it's what they know. They know they're not going to rock the boat. They know they're not going to do anything differently. And it's sad. And that's just, you know, what it's going to be. So I think we almost like, clearly, I thought the pandemic was going to shake things up and make them kind of change their tune. But clearly it hasn't, right? Like, what is the expression? An old dog doesn't change its way. New tricks, doesn't learn new tricks.
Can't teach an old dog new tricks.
And I think that for us, we have to really get innovative and creative with it. It's like, you know what? We can't depend on being in the janitor's closet at a red carpet. I think it's like, you know, having our own platforms, throwing our own events, having our own, you know, again, like even with my show, I've taken it into my own hands. Like having my own show, having people like Dave Portnoy come on into the fold, not depending on somebody else, you know.
And you had Dave Portnoy, you've had the creator of Girls Gone Wild, and that was a super, super wild interview because at some parts, somebody's saying "What up, Taylor?" to you right now, but some parts of it were like,
I'm sorry, I don't want to interrupt. I'm afraid to heart or respond because last time I did that when I was on with David Meltzer, it kicked me off the stream. So that's why I'm just like miming to everybody.
I'll do it for you and hopefully it won't. All right, there we go.
I have like PTSD, yes.
And but it was uncomfortable for me at times because for me as your friend, I was like, this dude is like really hitting on Taylor. So I'm like, is this real? I know they talked beforehand. I joked with you after, like, are you actually gonna go to his like deserted like Dr. Evil Island? Because he, in my opinion, he's like exiled by choice and / the industry. He's very innovative. All the things that we're doing now, there's slight versions of that 20 or 30 old Girls Gone Wild, right? Yeah. So and once again, I didn't want to step in there and be like the alpha male and be like, stop this interview now. You are embarrassing my friend. Because guess what? It's not my interview, first. And second off, you have control of your own narrative about how you feel. And you say that all the time. But how did it feel in real time when he was doing that?
You know, that's the beauty of not working for somebody like a Vulture or Us Weekly and having my own show, because I'm so trained as an entertainment journalist to make the interviewee feel comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And so I felt like I wanted to, first of all, it was like, for me, I wasn't bothered at all. It was like so playful. And I was like, God, someone just being, you know, however you want to see it, if you're turned off by it. But I was like, just someone being real and not giving a fuck. So I just was relishing in it because I just thought it was so refreshing.
Mm-hmm.
But that was what was so fun for me to as an independent creator, to go along with it, but also push back and kind of give them a little bit of shit too when I wanted to. So, you know, I was really proud of how I handled it. I had one of my listeners reach me after, and she was like, "You're the classiest girl in podcasting for, you know, how you handled it." So
yeah.
I was really proud of it, you know, and you never know what you're going to get with these high profile, larger than life figures. And, you know, you never know. It's a mixed bag. So how you kind of handle it in the moment, it's all just, you know, part of the experience.
And the coolest part for me about, I guess, the aftermath of that interview is that you got featured on Perez Hilton.
Yeah.
And for our audience, Perez Hilton is the godfather, or you can even call him the podfather of, you know, actual, you know, pop culture podcasting, pop culture blogging, right? Bloggers back in his days, 2004, 2003, they were shunned upon. Bloggers, people would joke about that. They're like, oh,
isn't that funny?
We only read Rolling Stone, we only read this, and half those print magazines are not even doing print anymore. They're doing digital outlets, which are, guess what, blogs, right?
Well, Evan, let's talk about, because I don't know how much time we have left.
You got about like 3 minutes left.
Okay, this is a perfect way to end it, because I know you had feelings about this. Let's talk about what got picked up by Perez Hilton, because something Joe Francis said, who basically, he kind of inadvertently created the Kardashians, okay? And they're still really impressed with him. So what they picked up of the interview is how he comes out and says, the Kardashians effing hate Me Too. They think it's the stupidest thing. They hate it. And, you know, it's no wonder they haven't come out and said anything about it. But there were a lot of dudes who reached me being like, I'm not surprised. They're no dummies. They showed their bodies. They're not going to come out and that miss.
Yeah, and that's very true, where the Me Too movement at its core, similar to the Black Lives Matter movement, not the organization, but just the movement behind it has a great intent, but some of the people involved in both organizations have an agenda.
Really good point.
Agenda to put money off of it, and I say that all the time, where corporate and civil rights don't mix, right? And when I say civil rights, I'm not only talking about for Black people, I'm talking about women's rights, whatever rights it is. They don't mix together. I never saw MLK with the shoe deal. I never saw MLK in Coach or Gucci, right?
Period. Sometimes, again, staying in your lane, it is better.
Exactly.
More impactful, yes.
Right, and Zuckerberg is gonna kick us off Facebook right now. One quick interesting story we'll talk about next time. Instagram and Facebook are thinking about literally making something called Zuckbucks, which is their own form of like cryptocurrency, which is bizarre because I feel like Facebook and Instagram is trying to take over the metaverse.
It's such an oxymoron, because the whole point of crypto is to get away from authority and people controlling you, which is everything Facebook and Instagram are about. So I say thumbs down to that.
Exactly. And then maybe we can use our Zuckbucks if we ever get into Instagram jail, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, thank you everybody tuning in. This is Evan Jackson, Young, Bold, and Regal, celebrating 9 years of Young, Bold, and Regal, which is amazing.
Congratulations, Evan.
A little bit. Taylor, hold up the shirt a little bit. Cancel Me Baby podcast. Talk to me, Taylor Ferber, pop culture provocateur, the best in the industry. Check her out. I'm going to post this right now.
Yes. Evan, thank you. Can't wait for the next one.
Yeah, thank you.